So there are amazing partnerships that we have in place for students to be able to participate in internships, to get real hands-on experiences so that when they go into an interview, they already have a leg up.
Welcome back to another episode of the Powercast. We're here at AASA in New Orleans. I'm alongside my co-host and Power School colleague, Jeff Pelzel, straight out of the great state of California. And we're going to put Texas on the map for this conference because I've got a special guest. You've seen him before on the path forward. Innovator extraordinaire, Superintendent Del Valle ISD, right outside of Austin, Dr. Matthew Gutierrez. Welcome back, or welcome to this show, but it's good seeing you again.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And so we've got a little bit of a rivalry between our states. And we had a fantastic guest earlier from California, but now it's time that we really show them
what Texas is all about.
That is exactly right.
They say everything is bigger in Texas, so let's just see what this is all about.
And that's accurate. We've got a lot of big things happening in Del Valle ISD.
We can't wait to hear about it.
That is absolutely right. And you did amazing things in multiple districts, Seguin, Leander. Now you're taking the helm at Del Valle.
Hold it. Did I just hear Leander?
That's correct.
Crazy side story before we begin. When I was a high school teacher up in Eastern Washington, a little community, we had a partnership with Leander School District, and we flew teachers down to Leander. This is in the, early to mid 90s, way before you were probably maybe even born, but I date myself here. But we went to Leander. It was around continuous improvement, the work with David Langford, and we came down there. They had a big institute. We learned, and then I actually had the opportunity the following year. I was flown down because of the work I was doing as a high school math teacher, using portfolios and this continuous matrix and all this kind of stuff. So I just can't believe you just said Leander.
Yeah,
anyway,
they
flashbacks.
still do that work. They're still huge on continuous improvement and still hold that continuous improvement institute.
It really grounded my foundation as a classroom teacher, which where I was from in Eastern Washington. Kids were not in groups. Kids were not looking at continuous improvement, and everyone looked at me like, what are you doing as a high school teacher? But it really transformed, and it really led all my work moving forward. So anyway.
It's a small world.
Small world, right?
So what you're saying is you came early in your career to Texas to get some knowledge about.
I knew he was going to say.
That's what I heard. I don't know how to frame that.
I'll definitely give you some credit there.
Well, tell us a little bit, and those that are familiar with some of the discussions you and I have had know a little bit about your background. But for those on the national scale that may not know about your leadership, talk a little bit career path and then your leadership in Del Valle. I know you're just starting out, so there's a lot to discuss and a lot of excitement.
Yeah, there is a lot to discuss. I'm about, 6 months in, and towards the end of my entry plan. Prior to Del Valle, I started my career in San Antonio at Northside ISD as a teacher, middle school administrator, elementary administrator, moved my way into human resources, spent most of my central office experience in HR. I got into curriculum instruction as a deputy superintendent and was able to really do some transformational work in a school district in the Dallas area, partnering with HMH and Solution Tree. And from there, went into the superintendency in Seguin ISD, just outside of San Antonio, for about 6.5 years. Decided to take some time away. I was pretty set on taking about 3 years away from the superintendency for a variety of reasons, and it ended up being exactly a year. This opportunity came up just down the road when I saw that the superintendent had announced her retirement. I immediately knew that that's where I needed to be, considering the demographic, and it ended up coming to fruition about 5 or so months later. It was a pretty slow process, and that board felt like we had an immediate connection. It's a board of 9, so trying to make that connection with 9 is definitely much harder than 7. And they ended up just doing one round. They knew after the first round who they wanted, made an offer. I was named superintendent on a Saturday in September and was in the district on Monday as a consultant. And so I've been there ever since and have built a strong team. I've been able to build pretty much the entire team of chiefs and deputy superintendents, and we have a lot of work ahead, but it's an amazing opportunity to do some turnaround work in a school system that is struggling academically. And of course, there are other struggles,
Sure.
but right now, primarily, our focus is on student achievement.
Yeah, no doubt. I do want you, I'm going to ask you to share this story. So, I was introduced to Matt through mutual friends years ago. Always had followed him, his leadership. And so I noticed in Seguin when he was doing some work there during COVID, some really profound and creative work with special education students, right? And which is always a struggle for districts of how do we do it better? How do we serve? How do we get them opportunities? And I remember Matthew came up with he and the team there were you tell the story, the bus and how y'all can for your special education students.
So
there.
we took one of our buses and completely renovated it and turned it into a classroom. And then it was a large bus. And what we were able to do was give kids a classroom experience during COVID and service our students based on their IEPs by going to their home and giving them the opportunity to come into our classroom with their special education teacher and still receive quality instruction in person, but one-on-one with their teacher. And so that bus put a lot of miles on it and was going first thing in the morning until the end of the day. We had a number of teachers that would rotate and go and provide services to our students because we knew how important it was for our students who were receiving special ed to get that personalized, individualized instruction that they weren't going to be able to get virtually.
I mean, talk about innovative. I mean, that is just, and we already knew the impact or could feel the impact it was having with gen ed kids. And so it's amplified with special education students, and to do something like to meet them where they're at and where they're needed. I mean, kudos to you and your team.
It was a real heartwarming experience when I had the opportunity to actually go along with our teachers and to see how not only were they educating the child, but they were also educating the parent. So parents were also receiving the tools and resources to be able to support their child's learning at home as they were watching their child getting instruction. They did not have to. Parents could go on about whatever they needed to do at home while their student was in the bus classroom.
Right.
But many times the parents wanted to be there, and so parents were learning. It was a great opportunity to engage and a great opportunity for our special ed department to partner with our parents. And what came of that is we actually had created what was like a special ed booster club with our parents, and it really helped to enhance that level of support that we were getting from parents, but most importantly, get our parents engaged in their child's learning.
I remember seeing it on social media, and I got so angry, not at Matthew, but because I can't remember what it was, but I was just told no on something that I wanted to do to figure out how do we provide. And it was all the reasons that we normally go through in education. We've always done it this way. We couldn't do it. And I'm like, I remember showing you're telling me we can't get this done, and yet school districts are totally revamping how they instruct and the mode of where they instruct, and we can't do this. And I just remember that struck me profoundly. It's like, no, we can if we get out of our own way. Because you were seeing it live in action, and it's like the barriers are self-imposed and barriers of why we can't figure out how to get better.
Oftentimes it is the adults. I was very fortunate to have an amazing school board of 7. They eventually became the board of the year for Region 20 back in 2022. But once you get your board into a place where their primary focus is student achievement, it's amazing what you can accomplish. And that wasn't the board when I first arrived in Seguin ISD, but it was because of that board support and their strong emphasis on student achievement that we were able to just think outside of the box and get the support from the board, whether it was funding or just simply getting their support.
Yep.
And we know that oftentimes boards do get in the way just because it's political,
right,
or it's not what they're passionate about. And so I'm excited about this opportunity in Del Valle to create that same team of, not team of 8 as it was in Seguin, but a team of 10 with 9 board members, to create that same sense of urgency.
Mm-hmm.
And I have full faith that this school board could be an award-winning board as well. And I feel like we've made a lot of progress over the course of the last 5 or so months. As a team of 10, we've had some bumps along the way with some resignations of board members for personal family reasons, but we're starting to see a huge shift on that school board that is already impacting the culture on every campus in the district.
That's fantastic.
I'm just curious, from your background, where does the innovation, where does your style of leadership, where does that come from? Did you have mentors? Did there were people or personal family members? I mean, where I just sense it right now as I'm listening to you talk. Your leadership skills are really dynamic. I can feel that with you. And where did that originate from?
So 2 answers. The first one is I was asked that question several years ago by someone on my team in Seguin ISD who asked, who was that mentor? Who was that person that helped get you to where you are? Knowing that oftentimes superintendents have those people that they've networked with who have mentored them, that connect them. And I thought for a while, because no one had ever posed that question, nor had I thought about it. And I responded with, I didn't have that person, unfortunately, who helped to prepare me for the superintendency, to help me map out a pathway, to connect me with search firms and consultants. And so it was at that very moment that I made a commitment to being a mentor for people who are aspiring to be superintendents. And so no matter how busy I am, I make the time to respond to people, to meet with people. And I have, because I think my social media presence, I have people reach out all the time. And I've even had people reach out to want to meet while I'm here because they want some guidance and support as they're looking to get into the superintendency, or they are trying to navigate some challenges in their superintendency. And so I've made that commitment and have been able to stay committed to that for probably the last 4 or so years, and especially for Latinos, because we don't have that representation in Texas. When the majority of our students are Latinos in Texas, you don't see enough representation in the superintendent ranks. I think the second part is, and I've talked about this in on several platforms, is I always wanted to be a teacher since I was a kid. And I was fortunate to be raised in a large family. I have 3 brothers and many cousins. And I often talk about my mom's side of the family. There were 30 grandchildren. I was one of the oldest out of the 30. I'm third. And so oftentimes during holidays and in the summer, I was surrounded by many cousins, and we would play school. And so they still give me a hard time because it wasn't pretend school, it was real school. My parents, uncles, and aunts would buy me like flashcards and textbooks, like I had the resources. So I had a back room at my grandmother's that was a classroom, and would have all my cousins, and sometimes I had like 10 or 12 kids in my class. So and I really, in my mind, I thought I was a teacher. And we weren't going to play Nintendo, we weren't going to play football or basketball until we completed all of our assignments and went through the school day, to the point where my cousins or siblings would run crying to grandparents or to their parents, and they'd say, no, Matthew is trying to make you smarter. You go back into that room and do what he asks. And I would differentiate, because I'd have like a 3-year-old all the way to a 10-year-old or 8-year-old. And I would like make my own worksheets. And of course I had textbooks, and it was the real deal. I even have a photo where I had my younger brother's not in the photo because he took the photo of me and my class, which was me and my cousins and the youngest brother. And then I have a cousin who's holding her puppy because she wouldn't put it down. But it was like that. I loved it. And then I got to kindergarten, and I remember Mrs. Parks, the principal, coming in and sitting in the back of the classroom with her yellow notepad taking notes. And I remember going home. I still remember, my mom remembers, saying, I want to be like Miss Parks. I want to be a principal. My mom asked, well, why? Because I want to go and grade the teachers and take notes on the teachers. And so I knew in kindergarten I wanted to become a teacher. And then I got to third grade, and Dr. Douglas Moore was the superintendent. Who knows what a superintendent is in third grade? And that's when I knew I wanted to be a superintendent. He invested in my mom and completely changed our trajectory. I grew up in poverty, what I would consider extreme poverty. Fortunate to have both parents at home. My dad was in construction, seasonal work, and my mom was a paraprofessional. Oftentimes, that was the only salary we had. She was able to go back to school full-time, keep her full-time salary while working 2 or 3 days a week, depending on the semester, and she was able to become a teacher. And that was our ticket out of poverty. And it was because of Dr. Douglas Moore, who invested in my mom. And he was driving through Texas right before I left Seguin with his wife, who was my third grade teacher and seventh grade teacher, from Florida, and they stopped to go visit me in Seguin. And that's when I was able to share like the impact he had on not just my mom, but our entire family. And so I knew that. My grandmother passed away in 2017, a few years ago. They were cleaning out her garage, and she had a box of my belongings. And in that box was an autobiography I had written in 7th grade. Completely forgotten, but I had mapped out my plan, my pathway to the superintendency.
Shut up.
As a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, I was going to be teacher, principal, curriculum director, and superintendent. And just...
Man, I think I'm type A.
You have no idea.
I'm definitely B+ now compared to you.
And not only that, but I had crazy mapped out like the ages. I was
How you doing on that?
little off.
Okay.
But a little. But I had wanted to become a superintendent since I can remember. And so when I'm walking a campus or walking a central administration in the community, people ask, how are you doing? I'm living the dream, because I get to live that dream every single day.
It's so powerful.
I didn't know. Out of all the conversations you and I have had, I had no idea. Like,
He started manifesting this when he was 5.
Yeah.
That's
pretty crazy.
I believe in a lot of that. It's just, and I'm sure for you, I mean, that was your vision and path. And like you said, you're literally living the dream that you wanted to be able to do.
I am. And so when I speak to kids, I talk to them about that. Like, possibilities are endless because of the education that we're receiving. And so coming into a school district that is high poverty, high emergent bilingual, many challenges that our kids come with, and we're not performing academically, I see myself as a fierce advocate for our kids, because if we don't change the way that we're operating, the students I serve are not going to be able to accomplish their dreams.
Oh, yeah.
And so I feel like the work that I'm doing in Del Valle ISD with my team is transformational turnaround work that our kids deserve. And sometimes I can be perceived as coming in very strong and aggressive, but our kids only get one shot at
That's
third
right.
grade or seventh grade. And there's a call to action right now in my district, and we have to make bold moves, bold reform. Otherwise, we're going to fail our kids in our community.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. And it's always a delicate dance, right? When you're going in, you know that there's things that need to be changed or tweaked or totally revamped in how slow, how fast. But I agree with you. If I'm that parent, I can't afford for you to take a year long to get the sense of it. I need you to act now as soon as you see my kid's not reading on grade level as a second grader or a third grader. And I might not even know I need you to act, right? I may not have the background to even understand that or
And many don't.
Yeah.
And that's my job, is to be their advocate. I'm not walking into a situation where I need 9 months, 12 months, a year and a half to get the lay of the land and get a feel for things. That's not the case here. There's a sense of urgency that I have and a commitment to enhance the educational experience for the 12,000 students in my district.
I think it's so powerful too. I think when we were talking before, you're the first Latino superintendent.
That is correct.
So there's something to be said about that story too, because the kids in your district, it's important that they see a leader who looks a lot like them, and there's a relational thing. There's so much. I really think that often is important and unfortunately still goes overlooked way too often, and it's taking us way too long. I think even my last position when I left my superintendency, the person who replaced me, this story just warms my heart. When she was a 5-year-old, she was a kindergarten EL student in the Newhall School District at Newhall Elementary, and now she is the superintendent.
Wow.
So Dr. Hernandez, it's like I was fortunate. I got to meet all the candidates in that process that were going to be applying or that they finalized. So I got to meet them. They got to talk to me actually because we were leaving it was my decision to leave.
Yeah.
We were leaving on great terms. And so I got to meet all of the candidates, and there were really good candidates. But I knew first female superintendent ever in the district, and she's Latina and former kindergarten EL student. And her first year of teaching was in Newhall, and she moved then to San Diego after she met her husband or whatever. But like just the full circle for that, I love it. And so for you, like I just say congratulations on the efforts, because it will make a difference for the kids, because it's something to be said. Like you've worked through all of this and look where you're at, and your kids, it's a story that your kids can relate to.
I believe so. And I didn't realize that. It wasn't until I think the day I was named lone finalist that I learned that I was going to be the first Latino superintendent. And there were several media outlets there, but one in particular that wanted to focus on that. I had no idea. I had
you would. I wouldn't have assumed.
Yeah.
I would not have assumed that. I would have assumed it. No way. Right there in the heart. I mean, we're in Texas. I mean,
Texas, high Hispanic enrollment, and I do believe it's important. My entire K through 12 experience, I never had a minority teacher, and growing up in West Central Texas, and so I believe it is important. And I think it would have been for me to have had those models, especially when my parents weren't college educated at the time, and it is my hope that I can serve as a role model, but an inspiration for the students in my school district.
I know I want to be respectful of your time, but I've got to get into some CTE, and as you stated, there's a lot of work to be done, but there's also a lot of excitement in Del Valle with your leadership coming in. I know you've got some things stirring about the possibilities. Just share, what are some of the exciting programs, some of the exciting things that your kids are doing, and maybe potentially how to build on top of those.
So I think what I'm really excited about is the work we are doing with career technical education. We are affording our students the opportunity to walk away with industry-based certifications at no cost to give them a head start when they enter the workforce, or to be able to have some good paying jobs when they start college. We have our high school is about 3,700 students.
Okay.
And we have a CTE building where students have the opportunity to go study engineering and hospitality, healthcare. Um, the new high school will have cosmetology. We've got audio visual, and not only that, but we have an early college high school as well, where students are able to walk away with an associate's degree before they even get their high school diploma. And for many of our students, they are going to be the first college graduates in their family. And so that's something that really makes me proud. We are building a second high school that is set to open in the fall of 2027. And so it's going to be an opportunity for us to grow the opportunities that we have in place for kids, because we're going to have more space, a bigger footprint when we're doubling the size of what we currently have. And so this is a real opportunity to really think about what is it that our community demands right now. And being in Austin, there's the tech industry. In fact, Tesla is located within Del Valle ISD. The airport is located within Del Valle ISD. So there are amazing partnerships that we have in place for students to be able to participate in internships, to get real hands-on experiences, so that when they go into an interview, they already have a leg up. But most importantly, when they land a job, they've already got the experience to be able to get started and not have to undergo as much training as another new employee who hasn't had those same experiences.
It gives them
as our kids.
Competitive advantage.
It does. And just yesterday we were highlighting our CTE program with one of the news stations, and I was in a welding classroom, being able to just showcase that. I mean, and our kids to walk away with a welding certification, they're already going to be making some really good
significant
income.
Money.
Yes, if that is what they want to continue to do. And for me, it is so important that we continue to build on what we have, because of where our kids come from, and to afford them the opportunities to identify their passion early on and set them up for success. So when they do leave high school, they're not having to start over. They're not having the financial burden of going to a trade school, or even the financial burden of the first 2 years of college.
Yeah, it's not cheap. And the last one, I know, and we'll get you out of here because I want to be respectful of your time. You mentioned Tesla. Power School, we do a lot of work with AI. You're an innovator, a creator, seeing the forecast before it comes to fruition. How do we stay nimble as educators, right? Because you got a lot of work in Del Valle, but you also need to stay nimble because it's changing so rapidly, the skill sets and what kids are going to be asked to do. How do you help get us there as a leader of a district, so we're not missing opportunities for students?
One is through professional learning and taking an active role in that, being part of the professional learning with teachers, sitting with teachers, being in the classrooms. I spend a lot of time visiting schools. I want to understand what the struggles are that our teachers are experiencing, so that we can provide that just-in-time support. I often feel like we get so busy in central administration and we become disconnected. And it's easy for that to happen because our work is demanding, but we have to be committed to building in that time to truly understand what our struggles are. And if we are bringing in a new innovative program or technical resource, to be able to see it happening in the classroom, to understand how teachers are responding, how kids are responding, so that if something isn't working, we know that exactly how to help. We can speak to it. We can also, what I expect is when we do go into a classroom and trying to build this culture, that as soon as we go in, we're partnering with the teacher immediately to help provide and facilitate that learning.
Yep. before we get you out here, I want to just throw it out there as an offer from Power School. We love to get engaged and really be a value add, and we would love to help co-sponsor or backstop an event for your district, and it can be centered on a lot of different avenues, and take upon for us to provide some workforce leaders to come and show what's possible, whether it be AI, whether it be data, whether it be marketing, because the reality is, regardless of your market sector as a company, you still have all those branches, and all of those branches can funnel in to support districts and schools. We've got legal, we've got marketing, we've got obviously technology, we've got sales, entrepreneurship, all of those things. I think that we can help give back, and we have wonderful partners from all over the country and the world. So at some point, I want to make sure we're helping Del Valle and helping you as a leader get everything that we possibly can to get to your students and your staff. So I publicly will throw that out there, and Jeff gets it, our CEO Hardeep gets it, and we want to pour back into schools. So
I would welcome that opportunity
yeah,
to partner.
we would love it, and knowing you and your forethought and how innovative, I think that's a perfect match for us to get down there and really help some kids out.
Thanks for bringing in the Texas guy to tug at my heartstrings.
I told you.
I mean, really, your why is amazing, and honestly, an honor to have this conversation with you. I'm going to follow you on LinkedIn because I'm interested. Your why resonates with my why, and I agree with Rick. We want to be there to partner, to support you. Maybe there's ideas about you hosting events and bringing districts in that we could partner with. That would get me to Texas, and I would love to be down there to be a part of it,
because I want to see state-of-the-art facilities. I want to show off.
I want to see about it, and one of my closest colleagues who worked under me in Newhall, I do not know which district she's in. She's in San Antonio area. Dr. Jennifer Gutierrez. She's down in Texas area, and she, I think, is a true innovator too. And I'm gonna ask her about her knowledge and those kind of things, and what she knows about the work that you're doing and all those kind of things. So what a great opportunity to meet you today.
Absolutely, Matthew. Thank you.
It's always been a pleasure.
I always learn. I always learn a little bit more every time we talk, and you're doing great work. Thank you for all the work on our Talos board and how important that is, and just look forward to seeing Del Valle explode and just really reach its potential.
It's exciting. There's so much potential with the growth that's happening, and with our kids who are coming ready to learn. They're relying on us, and it's rewarding. It's tough work. It's hard work. I just have to learn to do hard better every day.
Yeah.
And you have some kids that are playing school at home.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well,
I try to play school at home with my two boys, but they're not having it.
They shut it down. Come on, Dad.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. And to all of our audience, if you like what you heard, so please subscribe, hit that like button. And if you're looking for a place in Austin, Texas, near Austin, Texas to call home, and you want great opportunities for your kids, you need to check out Dr. G and Del Valle ISD. And we'll see you next time on the Powercast.